the Python is a functions. Now, which is one of the very easy section in Python. However, you need to have good knowledge on this because some MCQ questions and again some essay type questions, you need to have good knowledge on the functions. Now, we can write these functions, our own functions we are going to write in this lesson actually. So when you take the functions, remember, we have two types of functions. That is, some functions are predefined functions. However, we are going to study the user-defined functions here. Now, already we have worked with the functions in this Python. Already we have worked with the functions. If you can remember the function len and function range, function print, like those are already defined functions. Now, those are what we call the language-defined functions, so predefined functions. But however, what we are going to do in this part is to define our own functions, the user-defined functions, where you can write your own functions and which can be used wherever you want. So as an example, I want to write a function to decide the input number is odd or even. Like you can write your own functions to do different tasks. Now already we have worked with some functions in Python. When we are going to write some program, we have used a function, input function, an int function, and this range function. Like these are print function. Like those are functions. Already we have used them. Now these functions are already defined by the program language itself. But here we're going to study our own functions. We can write our own functions to do some task. Now, as an example, we have already worked with the range function. Range function. If you can remember this range function, the range function represents a range of values. So then that function is somebody has developed actually. Now we know we have already worked with the range function previously. We are working with the loops previously. We have worked with the range function. I explained what's the range function. Now when you write range 5, this will produce the values 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This will produce this value. The range 5 means 0 to 4. So that means there is a function which is somebody has developed that will give this output. So in a functions, remember, always for the functions, we need to have some inputs. We need to have some inputs, and the function always produce some output. So in this example, what is the input? Here the input is number 5. This value is input. What's output? Output is this one. This output you get. So always when you take a function, always you must have some inputs, and that will produce some outputs. Now in here, there is a function somebody has developed. That means someone has written a program. Someone has written a program named as a range. That program is called as a range. And this program, we don't know what is it, which has some lines of codes. So in here, so we are calling this function range, which is somebody has developed, which is predefined function. What it does, when you pass a number, it will produce this output and give this output to you. Now this one is somebody has developed. Therefore, to get this output, I just call the function, which is already developed by someone else. And this will produce this output. Like there are several functions that we are using. So then remember, these functions are already developed. Now this range function is an example. So which is someone has developed. We are just calling the function when I want to use it. When you are calling, the function must have a name. This is a function name. Range is a function name. That means you are calling some functions developed somebody else. And this will produce the output like this. Then again, you can see we have used the function int, integer. Int. In this case, if you pass a number 2.5, this will produce the integer value too. So that means somebody has developed a function named as int. When you pass this value, it will produce the integer value, corresponding integer value too. So that is somebody has developed. We are just using it. Therefore, I don't need to do that task again and again. Somebody has done it. Similarly, you can write your own functions. You can write your own functions. And here we are going to study how to write our own functions. So already we are using some function which is defined by the program language. But here we're going to discuss how to write our own functions. Therefore, when you are creating functions, remember we need to give a name. Like here, now here the length is a function, range is a function, print is a function, input is a function. Like you can have to give a name for the function to identify it. In that case, already names are given for some functions. Are those names we can't use? We have to give the different names. So in here, we are going to discuss how to write our own functions in Python. Remember, we can easily write our own functions in the Python. So then we have to follow some syntax. What are the syntax? We are going to write a function. We're going to write a function in Python. The first thing is you have to use the keyword def. This one. Definition of the function. This is necessary. This is necessary to write a function. And the second thing, as I told you, function must have a name. Because when you develop a function, we need to call the function. Then when you're calling, you have to call by name. So here we can use a name for the function. You can select any name which is not used by the program language currently. You can have function name. Then the other most important thing is a function. The function always must have a parenthesis. Starting parenthesis and end parenthesis are necessary. In between, you can pass some value. It may be a empty, or it can be a one value like here. You can have two values, three values, any number of values you can pass. Sometimes you can make it empty. You can make this one empty without passing anything. You can write a function. So that is the input value actually. That's input value. So then what's the syntax? We need to use the keyword def, function name, and the parenthesis. Parentheses are compulsory. Now when you're writing a function name, don't keep the spacing between the function name. Just write a single one word. Or if you want to have two words, you can use an underscore. Underscore is allowed. But any other special characters cannot be used. So then function name, parenthesis, in between here we call this as a, we call as a parameter. Or sometimes we call as a function arguments. Now here there is only one value, but some instance no value here. Some instance you can pass two values. Some instance you can pass three values by separating comma. We'll see some example later. You can pass multiple values. And the other thing is a colon. This colon is necessary. Colon is necessary. If you don't have a colon, it's an error. It's an error. Now those syntax you need to remember. Why is that? You can see the past papers. They have given different functions and you have to find out which one is correct, which one is following the correct syntax. Therefore, when you are going to write a function, what are the key things? Def keyword, function name, open parenthesis, closing parenthesis, and colon. In between the parentheses, you can have one value or two values or more values or nothing, empty. That is a function name. Then the next one is function body. This is the code which will be executed. This is the code which will be executed when you call this function by name. This is a function name. When you call this function, this code will be executed. Then how do I know which code is executed? That is why these indentations are used. This indentation is necessary. This indentation is necessary. That's how he identify which part must be executed. Now you can see this part is not inside the function. How does it identify? You can see it doesn't follow the indentation. Only this part follow the indentation. That indicates this is the body of the loop. But this part is not to the body of the loop. Why? It is not following the indentation. Therefore, when you're writing a function, remember the indentation is most important. So then, remember the syntax. Use the keyword def, function name, open parenthesis, closing parenthesis, colon, and write the statements with the indentations. This indentation is compulsory. Don't write to the same line aligned with here. That is an error. That's an error. So then you can write a function. Now I wrote a function here. I just written a function. What is the function name? Name is odd even. Is a function name. This is a function I have just written. Now once I written a function, I need to use it. Like in our program, you have used the range function. In that case, range function is developed by someone else, but I am just using it. To use it, I have to call that function by name. What is the name? Range. Similarly, if someone wants to use this function or even, if someone wants to use this function, then you have to call this function. Now here is the place I am calling that function. Here I am calling the function by name with some parameter. What's the parameter? X. X is the input you take here. You get the input from the user that is saved as X. It's an integer. Then you pass that value here. And then you call the functions. That means you're calling the functions here. When you call the function, that means you're calling to this function. You're calling to this function. And then you pass this parameter. This parameter will be passed. Let's say this value is 5. Then what happen? That value 5 will be mapped into here. This n will be equal to how much? 5. N will be 5. So then what is done by this program? You can see once you pass this n is divided by 2. So this operator, the percentage operator gives the remainder. That is, we divide the number n by 2, get the remainder. That is equal to r. Then you check whether r is equal to how much? R is equal to 0. That means remainder is 0. We know when a number divided by 2, remainder is 0 means even number. Then you will say it is even number. Else you will say odd number. Now, as I told you, if it is a function must have some inputs and outputs. Here the input is n. What is it output? Return. Return means output. It will output the result. That means it may output either even or odd. One of them will be returned. Then to where it will be returned? It will be returned to the person who calls. Now you can see here who has called this function. Here this one is calling the function. This code is calling the function. This code is called this function. Then what happened? It takes the input you pass here. Let's say input value 5. Then this value will be 5. Then you divide 5 by 2. Remainder is 1. Remainder is 1 means this condition false. Then you go to the else part. Then the result is odd because 5 means odd number. Then what happened? It returns what result? Result is how much? Odd. So that value will be returned to the function who calls. Therefore, that value will be returned to where? That value will be returned to here, A. Then you can see A will be equal to how much? Odd. Then this will print n is what number? Odd number. That's a very simple task done by this function. Is that clear?
Sir.
So then this is the function which will calculate, which will decide the input value is odd or even. And then I define that as a function. When someone wants, he can just call the function, and this function produce the output and return the result. So remember, why are we using these functions in the programs? The reason is now here, this is the code which will calculate or which will decide whether number is even or odd. Now, if you don't define a function, if you just write this calculation, what it does, it will just decide whether number is odd or even. Now, let's say I want to find out 3 numbers. That is N1. I want to find out this N1 is odd or even. N2 is odd or even. N3 is odd or even. Then what I have to do is, I need to write this part, this code. This code is the one who decides whether it is on odd or even. Then I need to write that code here. And I write this code here. Then I need to write this code here. Then you can see, I need to write the same code again and again, here and there. Then what happen? Your program size will be increased. And it is repetition of the works. So if I want to check any number is odd or even, then I need to write the program code here to decide whether this N1 is odd or even. And if there's another number, if I want to check, then I have to write the same code to decide the N2 is odd or even. And if there's another number, then I have to write the same code again to decide this number is N3 is odd or even. If we are not using the functions. If you are not using the function, you have to write the same thing again and again like this. When you are repeating the same thing again and again, something like this, your code will be very complicated and your code will be very large. And you do the same thing again and again. To minimize that, what you can do is, we can define that task as a function. So this odd number, even number identification, you can define as a function. So you can define that in a separate function like this. You can write a function here. Once you write a function to do this decision, to decide the number n is odd or even, then what happens when I want to use the function to decide whether it's odd or even, you can just call that function to decide whether it's odd or even. And here also, if I want to decide N2 is odd or even, you can just call the function. And here also, you can just call the function to decide whether it's odd or even, and that will return the value back to you. In that case, you can see this code is not repeating. This code is not repeating inside the program. Only once you writing is enough. And only one mod, if once you modify here, that affects to everybody. So like function has a lot of advantages. That is, program size can be reduced. Updations are very easy. So like those advantages are having when you're writing functions, when you're developing the functions. Otherwise, the same thing you have to write repeatedly again and again. That can be minimized by having a functions. Now this is very simple function. What it does, this will convert whatever the value pass, the Celsius value pass will be converted into Fahrenheit. So that is a very simple function. What it does, when you pass some value as Celsius, and that is converted into Fahrenheit. So here is the function. Here is a simple function. So in that case, that's the function. We have to use the keyword def, function name, parameter which pass the Celsius value. And this is a function which does the conversion and return that value. So that is a function. Now here I want to use the function. Then I'm calling the function by name. What is the function name? Convert. Then I call the function by name and we pass a value. We pass the value 20. Then what happens? This value will be mapped here. This value will be mapped here. T will be equal to how much? 20. Then what do you do here? T multiplied by 9 divided by 5 and get the return value. So then this will do the conversion, return the value. The return value will be replaced the person who calls here. This will be replaced. Then what happen? This will print, the value received will be printed here as 68. So that's a very simple program just to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit translation. However, remember, you can have 2 or more values without not limiting to one value. You can have 2 or more values. Now, this is the another example, what it does. So here we have a function. We have a function which is we call as a get grade. Get grade. The function name is a get grade. And we pass some value. That is a marks we pass. When you pass these marks, what you do, we check whether marks are greater than or equal to 90. Then you just say A. Else if means marks are less than 90. Then you check whether it's greater than 80. Then you just return B. Else if, then you check whether marks are greater than or equal to 70. Then you can say C. Else if, then you can check whether marks are greater than 60. Then you can say D. Else, that means marks are less than 60. Then you can say F. Now, as I told you, remember, we can write this else if as 2 words without writing ELIF. We can have the 2 word. That is, you can write this as like this. Else and then if. You can write something like this. Remember, when you write like this, as I told you, you need to have the proper indentations. But if you are using the else if remember, the indentation is same line. Indentation is same line. These things you have to keep in mind. But if you are using the else if as a 2 word, remember indentation should not be like this. You need to have the proper indentation then. So in that case, remember, if I not using the ELIF, in that case you write if score greater than or equal 90.0, then you can return the grade day. Remember, if I using the else if like this, else, and then you have writing else if here. Then you write the else if score greater than or equal greater than or equal to 18.0. And then you can write return B. And then you have to have the else here. And then if here. Remember, like this, the indentation is different. You can see the indentation is goes inside. We start here and go inside like this. Like this. But here, all line the same line. Why is that? We are using the ELIF instead of the else if. Those things you need to keep in mind when you're writing it. So then here this function, once you pass the marks, it will just decide. Which step return first 14 steps. No, here actually there are 2 functions. This is one function. There's another function that is called as a main. There's another function. What it does, it will ask you to enter the marks. It will ask you to enter the marks, and that is converted to integer and is stored here. Let's say you pass the marks, enter the marks 75, then the score will be 75. And then it will call the function getGrade with that entered number. So basically what happened here, you initially call the function main. This is the point where you start the program. You call the function main. When you call the function main, then it goes here. It called this one. Call the function main. And the function main will be executed. So what it does, it will ask you to enter the number. Let's say you enter the number 75, then the score will be 75. And that is calling this function. That is calling this function. And with this parameter 75, this will be 75 and this will be 75. Then you check this 75 greater than 90, no. Then it comes here 75 greater than 80, no. Then 75 greater than, yes, 70, yes. Then you get how much? C. Then what happened? If the user enters 75 as an example, if the user enters 75, this will be 75 and this also will be 75. That means this also will be 75. Then you check whether 75 greater than 90, no, else. 75 greater than 80, no. Then you come to the else part. 75 greater than 70, yes, this is the correct true condition. Then return C. Return C. The return C comes to where? The return C comes to the place who calls. Who is calling this one? Is called by this function. Here you get the C. Here you get the C. Therefore, this function will print your grade is C. That is how it works. We'll take one example, then I explain that. We'll see one example. So when you're writing a functions, remember you have to use the keyword def, and the function name. So in that case, you can use any name that you want, but you can use some meaningful name which describe the function. So let's say we want to find out the when the two numbers are passed. When the two numbers are passed, we want to find out which one is a larger one. So then you can write a function name as, let's say, max. So in this case, I am passing two numbers. Let's say one is A, other one is B, two numbers. Then I want to find out who is the maximum of these two numbers. Assuming they are not equal, then you can have the colon. So that is the definition of the function. Use the def, function name, parenthesis, function arguments. These are called as a function arguments or called as a function parameters. That is used to, now my objective is to find out which is the larger number. When the two numbers are entered, I want to find out who is the larger one. Earlier we have written the functions, earlier we have written the program to decide the larger one when there are two values. And the colon indicates the first line is over. Then you can go to the function definition. Remember, you need to write the function codes with the indentation. Don't start from here. Don't write anything from here. You need to have the indentation. Indentation is necessary. If you don't keep the indentation, it generates an error message. Now here we are having the two numbers A and B. What I want to do is I want to compare and find out which one is larger. We just compare A and B. We compare A and B. So in this case, if this condition is true, you can return return. Now this condition is true means A is the largest. A is the largest. Else means this condition is false. This condition is false. In that case, you want to return B as the largest. B as the largest. So that's very simple function. What it does, it gets the two values and then just compare them, identify who is the largest, assuming one number is larger than the other number. Now this is a function. That's a function. Now I want to use this function to decide input numbers, to decide the input number, which one is the larger one. So for that one, I just write the program to get the two numbers. Now I just take one number as X, and which is converted in integer, and I just read that function using the input function. Now these are functions. You can see these are functions. I'm using the existing already developed functions in the Python. Int is a function, input is a function, which are predefined functions. So this will take, I will ask enter. Enter the value for X. Similarly, I have another function, another value I want to get. Let's say Y. So now I have just taken the two values. Now when the user input, those values will be stored as X and Y. They are integer actually, they are integer values. Now what I want to do is I want to call this function and pass these values, pass this X and Y value, and then I want to find out which one is the larger one. Which one is larger one. So to do that, I need to call the function. How do I call the function? By name. What is the function name? Maximum. So I'm calling the function name. Function name is maximum. I have already defined at the beginning. That's the function name maximum. Then when I call, I need to use a parenthesis and pass these values, X and Y. X and Y. Now, when you pass these values, remember, my function will decide which one is larger. The larger one will be returned. Larger will be returned. So therefore, that return value you can get here by equalizing this, let's say some other variable, let's say R, return value. I just take that as the return value. Then that return value will be equal to R. This R will be equal to the maximum value. Then you can print. Maximum value is which one return value R. So basically what happened here, I have written a function. This is my function. What it does, it will just compare two values and decide which one is a larger one will be returned. And here I am calling the function. I have taken the two inputs from the user, stored as X and Y, and then I am calling the function name. I am calling the function by name, maximum. That is the function name here. Then what happened? This will call the function. This will call this function. And here this parameter X and Y, remember this X and Y will be mapped into A and B. Let's say X is 10, Y is 20, then this A will be 10, Y, B will be 20, like that. Those values will be mapped. And then it will compare and find out which one is larger. Larger will be returned. Maybe this one, maybe other one. One of them will be returned. Once it's returned, that will be returned to the person who calls, who is calling this one, this maximum. Here it returns. Therefore, R will be equal to that return value, that maximum value. That value I'm printing here. They need to return the maximum value. That's a very simple program. Now, let's run this one. First of all, I had to give a name for this file. I just give the name max.py Python. And then I can just run it. So when I run it, it waits for a number for the X. Then I will enter the X for 100 and Y as 200. Then what happen? Function will compare and decide the large as 200. So then you get the larger value as 200. Similarly, if I run this program again, then it will ask the value for X and another value for Y. Then it find out which one is larger, 200 will be returned. Is that clear? So that's a very simple function which will take the two inputs and then compare and find out which one is a larger one. Like you can write your own function.
That means it is not compulsory to finish that the else part.
What do you mean by compulsory to finished? Else part is here. This one is the one which will execute it. If the condition is false, this will be executed. Here we have the condition. If it is true, this will be executed. If it is false, this will be executed. Is that clear?
Yes, it's okay.
And again, remember, some instance, your program wants to return more than one value. More than one value you want to return. So in that case, how do you return more than one value? So to return more than one value, what you can do is you can create a list. You can create list of values and return. So in this case, this is the function. In this case, this function, where it takes many inputs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inputs. So that program takes 6 inputs. And it does some calculation and produces X and Y, 2 values. Then I want to return the 2 values, both values I want to return. In that case, you can create a list and return the values. And here is the function call. I call the function by name. Here I'm calling the function by name. Here I'm calling this function. And these parameters, these values will be mapped into each. A will be 2, B will be 3, C will be 4, D will be 1, E is 2, F is 5, like that. It gets each value one by one. And inside the function, this is the body of the function. Here it produces some values for X and Y and return both X and Y. In this case, here you can see there are 2 values assigned. So what happened? This value X will be mapped to here. And this value Y will be mapped to here because it returns 2 values. Those 2 values will be mapped. Yeah. So then in a program, we can return multiple values. Now, as an example, in the previous program that we have written here, this one is just to find out the large and the small values. So in this case, let's say we can write different program. So I'm just writing another function definition. which will give some results. Let's say task. I just call the function as a task. And then you can give any name, doesn't matter. And let's say I'm taking 2 inputs, A and B. You can get any number of parameters. So you can make it empty, no matter. I am taking 2 numbers. Then I just calculate, let's say sum S, which is equal to A plus B. A plus B. And multiplication, let's say M. That is A multiplied by B. So we have one is a sum, other one is a multiplication. Let's say we want to get the power, that is A to the power B, A to the power B, like this. Now it calculates 3 values. One is the addition, other one is a multiplication, other one is a power, 2 things. So then I want to return all these values. I have written all these values. Then you can create a list. Later we'll discuss the list. One is S, other one is M, other one is P. 3 values I'm returning. I want to return 3 values. So this function returns 3 values. One is sum, other one is a multiplication result, other one is a power exponent result. Then I want to take the 2 inputs. I want to get the 2 inputs. So to get the inputs, we can use some other names like earlier. X, again integer, input. Then you can write enter value for X. That is for the first value. Similarly, I can get for another value, let's say Y. Then I'm trading the 2 values. Then I just call the function. What is the function name? Task. Then I can pass these parameters X and Y. I can just pass these parameters X and Y. And then this function returns through 3 values. 3 values. So then these 3 values I can take with different names. You can use different name, no matter. So I just use sum is capital S. Multiplication is capital M. Product is, I just use the capital P. Doesn't matter, you can use any letters, no matter. So then the function, we are calling the function will give the outputs. Function will use the output. So then once I get the output, I can print them. Print. You can write sum of which one? X plus Y. X plus Y, which is equal to X plus Y equal to S, this one. And print. The other one is subtraction, sorry, multiplication. X multiply Y. So that is given by, M, multiplication result. Then print X to the power Y. X to the power Y. So I can just write as, yeah, x to the power y, your exponent, which is equal to p, capital P. So then basically what happened here, I have developed the function, my own function name as a task. What it does, it takes the two inputs, A and B, and get the sum and get the multiplied result, get the exponent, sorry, the power. And then these values are returning. S means sum, M means multiplied result, P is the power. And these values are returned, this function. And here I get the two inputs from the user. Two inputs are saved as X and Y. And then I call the function by name task. Here I'm calling the function. Here I'm calling the function. And when I call these values X and Y is passed here and there. Let's say it is 2 and 3, 2 and 3. Then it does the addition, 2 and 3 plus 5. 2 into 3, 6. 2 to the power 3 is 8. Then those values are assigned here. Then this function returns. When it returns 3 values, S, M, and P. Then you can see this value will be mapped here. And this value will be mapped here. And this value will be mapped here. And these values I'm printing one by one. That's a task done by this program. Now let's run the program. So then it is waiting for the value for X. Now let's say I enter the value for X is 3. It is value for Y, let's say 2. Then X and Y is 3 and 2. Then you can see, so I get the each result. 3 plus 2, 5. 3 into 2, 6. 3 to the power 2 is 9. So like you can run this function with different values. I enter the value 2 here and 5 here. Then you can see 2 plus 5, 7. 2 into 5, 10. 2 to the power 5, 32. So like you can see in this one function returns multiple values. Remember in that case you have to have this square bracket. It is a list and you have to get each return value one by one by using the comma. So this value will be returned to the first one. This value will be returned to the second one. This value return the third one. That is how we can return the multiple values. Yeah, this is the another example. We call the function name as cal, where you take the two inputs and which will calculate the sum, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And each value is stored here. Each result will be stored here. Function name is cal. Then you take the two inputs and then you call the function. Here it is calling the function. And this X and Y will be mapped here. And that will be mapped here. And that will do the calculation and the results. Sum will be returned to P. Sub will be returned to Q. Multiplication result will be returned to R. Division will be returned to S. Then you can print each value one by one. So that way you can have the multiple values can be written by the function. Now this is the same program. Earlier we discussed this odd even function. This is a function which will calculate the odd even. What the difference here is that we call this function within a loop. Now loop run how many times? Loop runs how many times? Range 5 times. 5 times. Therefore, we call this function how many times? 5 times. You take the 5 input and call the function 5 times. That is only difference with that program. Now, this is again very important one. Can you tell me the difference between the previous program? Previous program runs only 5 times. What is the difference in here? How many times this program runs?
Once.
How many times this program is running? Function is called. The function is same as previously. No any new things in the function. This is a function. This just calculate the odd or even. Yes, remember this function is running until you enter which number. Now this condition, while loop condition is true. Remember, while loop condition is true means infinite times. Infinite times. So remember, when you're using the loop, if you don't know exactly how many times running, you have to write like this. This is very important in the exam. This kind of things you need to write. Because if you ask to write the program to run 10 times, then you can easily use the range 10. If you want to run the program 20 times, you can use the range 20. But if you don't know exactly how many times user is going to run the program, then this is how you should write. Where you can create infinite loop. Infinite loop means loop runs without stopping. In that case, when the user enters some number, you take that as an n. When the user enters some number, you take as n. Then you will just say if the n is equal to -1. If the n is equal to -1, what do? You break the loop. You break the loop. That means when the user enter the -1, your program will be stopped. So this kind of things very important in the exam paper. They will ask you to write a program until some conditions are satisfied. Now this is a condition here. You can change this condition. Here the program condition is until you enter the -1, program runs. But whenever you enter the -1, program will be exited. Why? Loop is broken. That's the meaning of the break. So in this case, you can enter 5 numbers, 10 numbers, 20 numbers, 3 numbers, we don't know. However, when the user enter the -1, program will be stopped, terminated. So this is how you should write it. This is very critical and very important, this component, this part. Most of the time in the exam paper, you need to have this kind of thing. That is, you create a while loop where condition is always true and you get some input from the user and it runs until this condition is satisfied. Whenever that condition is satisfied, you are breaking the loop using the break statement. Then you can see if the n is not -1, then you go to the else part. If the n is not -1, then you call the function. Then you call the function. The function will check whether the number is odd or even and print that one. Then again go back to the loop and ask the next number, check whether -1. If it is not, run this one again. So like until you enter the -1, program is running. So that is how you can write the program where the examiner is asking to run it until you enter a specific number or a specific value or a specific text. So remember, this is how you do it. You have to have the while loop, make the condition always true, and get some condition. When it is satisfied, break the loop. If it is not that, we can go to the rest of the lines. So that is how you can use a break. Remember, when you use a break, the loop is broken. After that, loop is not running. Loop is over. Is that clear, that program segment? This is very important. Most of the time in the essay type paper, we need to write that kind of codes to satisfy some requirements. Then this is another thing you should know with this function parameters. Now here, this is the function. Here this is a function. And here we have some parameters x, m, and b. There you can see already some initial values are given. M is how much 1, b is how much 0. These are equal as initial values. Initial values. So in that case, see what happened. Now here I call the function. What is the function name? Line. So I am calling the function line. This one. But I am passing only one parameter, 10. I am passing only 10, nothing else. But the function has 3 parameters. Function has 3 parameters. But I am sending only one parameter, 10. Remember, why is that I am sending one parameter? Because these two are already assigned the values. M is 1, B is 0. They already have the values. When you do this, what happens? This M, this value 10 goes to the X. That value goes to the X. That value go to the X. So then what happened? This will do the multiplication. M is how much? 1. X is how much? 10. 1 into 10, 10 plus 0. Then returns how much? 10. So that is why answer is 10. Answer is 10. But the second example, I am passing 2 values, 10 and 3. In that case, what happened? I am calling the function line. When I call the function line, what happened? This value 10, remember this value 10 is mapped into the X. And value 3 is mapped to which one? M. Then will be 3. So then it multiplies. X is how much? 10. Sorry, M is how much? 10. X is how much? 3. 10 into 3, 30. 30 plus 0 is 30. So the output is 30. Return value comes as a 30. Then you can see the third example. So I am passing the value 10 here. Then this will be 10. And 3 will be equal to the M. 4 will be equal to the B. So they need to multiply 10 and 3, 30. 30 plus 4, 34. Then the return value is 34, like this. That is how you get that output. Again, next one. Here I am sending this 10. Remember, in this case, 10 will be equal to the X. And here I'm saying the B equals 4. Then this B is not 0, B is 4. This will be 4. Then what happen? It multiply X is 10. 10 into 1, 10. 10 plus 4, 14. So the output is 14. That's how you get it. Then the last one. When I call like this, the 10 goes to the X. M is updated as 7. So this will be 7. B retains as 0. Then you multiply 10 and 7, 70. 70 plus 0 is 70. Answer is 70. That's how you get it. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
These things you have to clearly understand, because in MCQ, you need to know that. This is another example. You can just try it out later. This also I have explained to you. Therefore, I'm not going to explain that one. This is already done. We come to another very important one. Most of the time, the A-level paper, this is very critical. This is the last part of the function. This is the last part of the function. This is again, most of the time in the A-level paper, last 3 years, they have tested your knowledge, global and the local variables. What are these global variables? What are the local variables? Now remember, when you take a function, so now this is a function. Now this is a function. Now remember, whatever the values which are used inside the functions, this A and B are what we call the local variables. Local variables. Again, you have to keep in mind this A and B, this A is not equal to this A. Why? This A is a global variable. Sorry. This A is a global variable. But these two are local variable. Therefore, this A is a local variable. Even the same name is used. Remember, this A is not same as this one. They are two different things. How do they differ? This one is a local variable. This one is a global variable. The global variable can be accessed in everywhere in the program. But the local variable can be accessed only within the functions. It is not visible outside the function. So that is what to keep in mind. Now in this one, you can see in this example. So here, I have a function. So then that function is this one. This is a function. So this function, what it does, it gets some input, and then you write A is equal to 100, B is equal to 20, then those two values will be returned. Then this, I am calling the function here. And when I call the function, this value will be mapped. This value will be mapped to B. Then the B will be equal to how much? 50. B is how much? 50. B is 50. But the value is inside here, this B is 50. This is B is 50. Then you make it A is 100, B is 20. Then you return those two values. When you return those two values, what happened? That is A is how much? 100, B is how much? 20. Then those values will be mapped into X and Y. X will be equal to A, Y will be equal to B. So therefore, X will be how much? When the X will be how much? This X is this A. That A is how much? 100. Therefore, this produces the value 100. This will display the value 100. And what is this A? Remember, when you say A here, that A refers to this one. That A refers to this one. Because outside the function, this A is not visible. This is not visible. Therefore, when you say A, that means 10. That means 10. When you say Y, Y is this one. That is how much B. B is how much? 20. So we can clear this one further by taking another example. This one. Yeah, this is what I have explained to you. Remember, in here, when I have this variable A, it's a global variable A. That is not same as this. Now here what you do, we call the function and pass this parameter here. Then the B equal to how much? 50. Therefore, this A will be equal to how much? This A will be equal to 50. This A will be equal to 50. And B is 20. B is 20. So A is equal to 50. And then it returns A and B. A how much? A is 50. A is 50. That value is 50. Therefore, that will be returned to here. Therefore, X will be equal to how much? 50. Therefore, print X, that is how much? 50. A means, remember, this A means this one, global variable A. That is how much? 10. Therefore, it returns 10. Finally, Y means this one. That value is how much? This one. This value. That value is how much? B. B means how much? 20. Therefore, Y will be equal to 20. This is the output you get. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Now we'll come to the local variable things to explain further. Now let's see this program. here, yeah, let's see this one, then you can understand. So here you can see, now A is a 10. This A is a global variable because this is not inside the function. Now, what are the local variable? The variable inside the function are local variable. Now, this A is not a local variable, but this A and this B are local variable. They are not visible outside the functions. Even the same name is there, this A and the other A is not visible. So in this case, remember, now here we call the function, we call the function, and this will be 50, and this will be, B will be 50, and then you make it A is 100, B is 20. Then this program, you just asked to print the A. Here A means, remember, the global variable. That is, these variables inside the function are not visible. Therefore, here A means which one? This one, not the inside variable, the variable inside the function. A means this one. Therefore, it prints 10. Then you say print B. What is the B? Where is the B? Remember, this B is not inside the function. B is outside the function. Therefore, when you say B, he doesn't find where is the B, because B is a local variable. Therefore, it generates error message saying that there's an error, B is not defined. He doesn't know what is B. That generates error. Is that clear? Why is that? Because whatever the variable you define inside the function, this is a function. Whatever variable you define inside the functions are local variables. So basically, this is what happened. Now here there's a function. Here there's a function. In this function, there are two variables, A and B. A and B. So they are local variable. These two are local variable. But remember, even you have the same variable name A here, this A and the A here are two different things. They are not equal. Now, this is the function. Now, outside the function, I call A. Outside the function, I am calling the A. When I call the A, that refers to this A. Therefore, A is how much? 10. So it produced the output 10. Okay, is 10. Then we call the B. I'm calling the B, but B is not visible. B is not inside the, B is inside the function. Therefore, when I call the B, we cannot find the B in globally because B is inside the function. You can't go inside the function. Therefore, it generates error message like this. When I call the B, it generates error message saying that B is not defined. B is not defined. Because why is that? B is a local variable. B is a local variable. B is not visible to the outsiders. The B is visible only within the function. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
However, if you want to make it visible, there's a method. If you want to make it visible to everywhere, what you can do is you can say global. You can say global. When you make it global, it is visible everywhere. It is visible everywhere. Is that clear? Now, in this case, you can see. So in that case, global means, in that case, this say and this say both are same. So in this one, you can see, I have the variable A 90. And I define a function B. And you define a global variable as A. You define global variable as A. Then you can write A is equal to B. Then you call the function here. We call the function. You pass the value 50. Therefore, B is how much? 50. Then you define the global variable A is equal to B. B is how much? B is equal 50. Then you can say A is equal to B. Therefore, A is equal to B means B is how much? 50. Therefore, this value will be equal to 50. That means A is how much? 50. Then you just say print A. Print A. You just say print A. Now this A means same as this one. That is same as this one. But that A is updated to how much? 50. Therefore, it produces the output as 50, not 90. Is that clear? By using this variable global, you can make it visible to the outside the function. In that case, it is visible. Now, in the previous example here, actually, I don't get the error if I make this one global. If I make this one global, then here I don't get an error. This will work. No, in that when you make it global, both variables are same. When you make it global, this say and this say both are same. Initially A is 90, but here we update A to how much? 50. Therefore, this value will be replaced by 50. Therefore, A will be 50. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yeah, we just look at some MCQ questions and then come back. Let's see a very recent one. I just want to explain. Yeah, this one. Now this one related to the one I have just explained to you. Can you tell me the answer? So if you look at the code, what happened here? Now here we have the global variable x50, and here we call the function. Here we call the function with x. X is how much? 50. X is 50. This x, that is this x, it is 50. And the y also will be 50. And we make it x equal to and y equals 4. But these are local variable. These are local variable. When you are printing x, when you are printing the x, this x is not visible. Then which refers to which one? This one. Therefore, this is very obvious. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Because here, these x values are not visible, they are local variables. When you say print x, it refers to this one, global variable x, which is 50. Yeah, if it is a global x, what is the answer? If they have written here global x, if they are written the word global here, what is the answer?
Syntax error.
Then the second, then the value is 2. The x will be equal to. But that is not done then. So the answer is 50. Okay, let's see. Okay, this question, can you tell me the answer? Yes, now you can see here we need to write a function definition. Definitely def is needed. So this one doesn't have def. This one doesn't have def. And this one doesn't have parameters. Because you need to have some parameters to add them together like this. So then we need to have only 2 numbers. Therefore, this is the answer. Here there are 3 values. That's not necessary. Second one.